What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So we're going to do a stimulus package, stimulus check update, and I'm going to show you guys a clip. So this is going to be a Representative Comer. He's out of Kentucky, the same area where Mitch McConnell is from. So Mitch McConnell is a senator in Kentucky, and this is a representative in Kentucky that we're going to listen to right now. And it's interesting. It is really interesting that you have some of these politicians coming out now really in favor of the $2,000 stimulus check. These are people you never heard voice their opinion when it comes to stimulus checks. Some of them didn't want a stimulus check at all. But President Trump said, oh, $2,000 stimulus checks. And now all of a sudden you have all these politicians coming up, a lot of Republican politicians coming up and saying $2,000 stimulus checks. The people need this money. And so I think it's interesting. I want to continue to play these videos of people in support of $2,000 stimulus checks, politicians in support of $2,000 stimulus checks, because we're looking at a new administration coming in 17 days. So when they come in, are these same politicians going to be on board for $2,000 stimulus checks? That's what we're going to have to look at, because that is going to become the talk. Because now that we have this stimulus package approved, signed by the president, people are starting to receive their $600 stimulus checks. What's going to happen next? Are we going to see another stimulus package? Remember, Joe Biden, president-elect, soon-to-be president Joe Biden, said this is a down payment. So if it's a down payment, then that means that President-elect Joe Biden wants another stimulus package. Will he get it? We'll have to see. We have the Georgia race. We have some other things that are happening. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But he does want another stimulus package. So we'll have to see where that goes. So I'm going to show you guys this clip. We'll talk about it as we watch it. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. All right, so let's go ahead and play this clip right now.
Republican Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. Sir, good morning to you. Thanks for being here. Happy New Year to you. Wow, who knew we would be here New Year's Eve 2020? What do you want to see next for your party when it comes to this standoff over stimulus?
Well, I strongly support the president. One of the problems that the Senate has right now is that the president has instilled upon the Republican base that this is direct stimulus to them. Even though I think the CARES Act did a great deal to save our economy with respect to small businesses and keeping workers on the payrolls and a lot of struggling businesses, there were a lot of Americans that didn't feel the effects of the stimulus. And the president, with his plan for $2,000 to every individual that qualifies from an income standpoint, is something that's very popular with Republicans, and obviously it's popular with the Democrats. If you go back to the stimulus vote last week, one of the problems they had is the leaders in the House and the Senate combined a lot of different bills onto one vote. And in the minds of the base, I think that's what's happening right now in the Senate. So I wish the Senate would start having standalone votes on different bills. I think that would be better received by the American people. And I think that would help the Senate get their message out that they're trying to do the right thing and trying to have offsets, but at the same time trying to help the American people.
And obviously,
now, this is really interesting. So he's a Republican, and he's talking about the $2,000 stimulus check. And we know President Trump came out for this $2,000 stimulus check. But where were these politicians 7 months ago? Because 7 months ago, 7 months ago, you had politicians coming out, mainly Democrats, but you had Kamala Harris, you had Bernie Sanders saying $2,000 stimulus check. Where were these politicians then? You didn't hear them say anything. Even in June, you had President Trump saying he wants the stimulus check to be larger than what the Democrats want. And at that time, the Democrats were asking for $1,200. Where were these politicians then saying, yes, we back the president. We want it larger than what the Democrats want? You didn't hear these politicians back then. And that is a big part of this problem. They're waiting for direction. They need to be leaders. Not waiting for direction. They're waiting for the president to say 2,000 is okay, and then they jump on board and say, okay, 2,000 is okay. They were elected to represent the people. What do your people want? Not what does the president want. That's the problem that we're seeing here. You have a legislative branch that needs to create these bills, and then you have the White House, the executive branch, that's a whole different branch. But they're listening and getting their direction from the president instead of creating things on their own, listening to their people. It's backwards. And that's why we spent 7 months not going anywhere, because you had politicians waiting to hear what the White House wanted to do instead of listening to the people. The people were asking for money for a long time. People have been struggling this whole time. So this should not be any surprise to some of these politicians that say, oh, 2000, yeah, you know what? 2000 does sound good. Why? It sounds good because the president said it sounded good. But what about what the people say? All right, let's continue.
Say with the balance of power in the Senate, hanging in the balance, I should say, down in Georgia, all of this, it comes down to this, doesn't it, Congressman? Lindsey Graham weighed in just a few moments ago on Fox News Watch.
And if we lose Georgia, this bill is going to seem really cheap, because if we lose the Senate and they have control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, they're going to send over a monster of a bill and will make this bill look cheap.
What about that?
All right, now, and this is another thing I want to talk about too. Just listen to the politicians. Are they representing the people when they talk like this? Or are they just representing the party? Because like you said, Lindsey Graham's concern is not that the people get what they deserve, get money to help stimulate the economy. His concern is we might lose Georgia. If we lose Georgia, then the Democrats can get whatever they want. So it's a power struggle. It's a game to them. It's not, they're playing chess. It's not a situation where they're thinking, okay, this is right for the American people, that's why we're doing it. It's we need to do this because if we don't give these $2,000 stimulus checks, the Democrats can come up and want even more because they're going to have the power because of this Georgia race. So just listen to how the politicians are talking. They're not talking about helping the people. They're talking about remaining in power.
Lindsey Graham's exactly right. What we've seen from Democrats in the past is, there's no fear of running the debt up to the moon. And I think that what will happen if we lose those Senate races in Georgia is they will come back with a bill that not only will have the $2,000, which is what I think a majority of Americans want, they're also going to put elimination of student loan debt. They're probably going to have more pork than has ever been put on a bill in the history of America on a bill. So I think that the best thing for the taxpayers right now is to try to get this stimulus passed and then set the example. Let's start having regular order in Congress. Let's have one vote per one bill and not try to jungle a bunch of different bills onto one vote. And that was confusing the American people. The stimulus bill didn't have a lot of the stuff in it that I see a lot of my friends post on Facebook, but you combine so many different bills onto one vote, right? It confused the Americans. And if you're confusing intelligent people about what Congress is doing, then you're not doing your job in leadership. So I hope that we can get back to regular order. And I don't really agree with what's going on in the Senate.
I'll ask you why it's come to this and why it's come to now, obviously, and why it's taken so long in just a moment. But here's Josh Hawley, another one of your Republican colleagues, arguing that if there's enough money for Wall Street bailouts, certainly there's enough money for everyday Americans who are struggling. Watch.
For all the people who say we don't have the money, I noticed that we seem to have plenty of money when it came to bailing out Wall Street. That didn't seem to be a problem. I noticed that we seem to have plenty of money when it came to shipping money overseas. That didn't seem to be a problem. But now when working people need help, it's, oh, heavens, we can't possibly do that. I'd suggest that the priorities are wrong.
So.
Okay, and that was Josh Hawley. I agree with that. I agree with that. The priorities are wrong because, look, you have politicians right now. And this was shot, 3 days ago. So this is a little old. It's outdated. As far as us getting a $2,000 stimulus check, it's not going to happen until the new administration comes in. And so we see today, Sunday, we have a changing of the guard when it comes to Congress. So the 117th Congress is being sworn in as we speak. But what Josh Hawley is saying is we're so concerned about, I mean, you have politicians that are concerned about where this money is going. This $2,000 stimulus check. Oh, it might go to people who don't need it. They haven't lost any wages. Why are we sending them money? It's the wrong message to send, right? Because you're sending money overseas. You're sending money to other countries. Shouldn't you be sending that money to the American people first, even if they don't need it right now? Shouldn't you be sending them the money? It's their tax dollars. You're taking their tax dollars and sending them overseas, or sending them to Wall Street. But even Wall Street, that's still within the U.S. You're taking money and sending it to foreign countries. But then you're complaining about, well, we want it more targeted for the American people. Why don't we target the money that we're sending to foreign countries and take some of that money back and give it to the American people? That is, I mean, we have things all wrong. I mean, that argument of, oh, well, they might not use the money. They might not use it to stimulate the economy. At least the money is staying in the U.S. At least the person who's paying their taxes is getting a tax cut, because that's what it is. I keep going on this. It's a tax credit. Okay, so all those politicians out there talking about we want tax cuts for the American people, here's your opportunity. This is a tax cut. It's a credit that everyone is receiving. So, I mean, we have it wrong. We have it all wrong. We want to send money overseas, but we don't want to keep that money in the U.S. and help stimulate the economy. We're focused on, we need to target it. We can't give it to people who haven't lost any money and haven't lost any wages. We can't give them money. Are you kidding me? But I can give another country billions of dollars. Sure. It doesn't make any sense.
So put that up against the Wall Street Journal editorial board, who did the back of McConnell this morning, writing this: $2,000 checks for the affluent. Schumer and Trump want to write checks to the non-needy. So, Congressman, I would ask you, how do you address those more fiscally conservative colleagues of yours who are saying that this money will end up in the pockets of many who don't actually need that, who did work through the pandemic, who are not struggling? This is a lot of money, Congressman.
Every government program I've ever been aware of has ended up in the pockets of people that didn't really need it. It's hard to have a one-size-fits-all approach in government, and that's been a problem in the past. And a lot of people see, despite the huge success of the PPP loan program, we're always reading about a very wealthy person that got millions of dollars that they may not have to pay back. And that's angered the Republican base. And I think a lot of Republican senators don't understand what Josh Hawley obviously does understand, and at least 44 Republicans in the House, like myself, understand, is that our Republican base is becoming more populist. The trickle-down policies of the past aren't in style with the base now. The base wants to see stimulus that affects them. And, a lot of Republicans can successfully make an argument that the CARES Act did benefit an overwhelming majority of Americans, but there are a lot of people on fixed income. There are a lot of people, senior citizens that draw Social Security. They didn't feel the effects of the last stimulus. The president has instilled in their minds that they can feel the effect of this $2,000 direct payment. Obviously, the Democrats think that. So this is something I think the Republican leadership in the Senate and in the House, for that matter, needs to really rethink and try to come up with a plan and have a standalone vote on that. If they want to combine something else with the stimulus bill, they should combine offsets and start with foreign aid. If they cut foreign aid and gave the money that they were going to give to other countries to the American people, I think that would be a huge win. That would help out in Georgia. And that's something that I think the American people want, especially the Republican base.
Congressman, appreciate your time this morning. Happy New Year to you.
Okay, so that was Mr. Comer, and that last part that he was talking about, the whole foreign aid thing, yes, we should be cutting foreign aid. During a crisis, it's appropriate to cut foreign aid to help the American people. I think that's the least that you can do. And so when we have, I mean, it just, like I said, it amazes me that you have these politicians that are saying we need it more targeted, and why should we be giving money to people who have not lost any wages? Why should we be giving them money? Because they have other things that they're probably paying for now due to the pandemic that they weren't paying for before. They might have medical bills. They might have a situation where someone in their family, maybe not immediate family, but in their parents or what have you, they're struggling, and so they're helping them out. So they're at daycare. They might be in a situation where their kids can't go to school, so now they have to pay for someone to watch their kids. There are so many different factors that are happening when it comes to this whole pandemic. Just because your wages didn't change doesn't mean that you're not spending more money, because a lot of people are spending money that they weren't normally spending. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing is, look, help the American people. America first, right? I mean, some of these same politicians say, yeah, America first, but they want money to go overseas, or they're okay with this money going overseas, and they're not looking at that saying, no, we need to help the American people. So if we're talking about a $2,000 stimulus check, that's fine. Take that money from the foreign aid that we're sending out, at least for right now. And then once we get back on our feet, the pandemic is over, then you can start sending that money back overseas. Why do it now? Why do it now? Why are we sending foreign aid right now? It makes no sense. And there's not a politician out there that can explain to you why it's more important to send money to foreign countries and not keep that money at home and help the American people. There is not a politician that can explain to you why that makes sense. So I want to know what you guys think. So in the comment section, let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.